Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Svelte Radio. Today we have yet another guest with us to talk about Svelte. But first, introductions. I'm Kevin. I run a site called Svelte School, and I'm heavily involved in the Svelte community in general. And I'm just a Svelte evangelist, I guess.
I'm Antony. I'm the CTF Beyonk, and I'm also a Svelte maintainer.
I'm Shawn. I work as a senior developer advocate at AWS. This is probably my last time in that role, and I'll have a new role coming up next time we do this recording, where hopefully, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'll be working on a production Svelte project. So more news to come.
Exciting.
Yes.
And our guest today is David Parker. He's a software developer, I guess. Maybe you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm David Parker. I normally go by Parker, and I am CTO at HobbyDB for my day job, where I do Angular, unfortunately. But I spend a lot of my free time doing Svelte, and I run a site called ListenAddict.com, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And I'm making another project after that. So
I'm just gonna point out here that the title developer, with a guy who has two side projects which are looking pretty decent, I'm going to say entrepreneur. I think it's a good title.
I would take that.
All right. So before we get into the meat of the discussion, I'll read some sponsor spots. So the first sponsor spot is actually not a sponsor. It's just some news about that you can now support Svelte Radio directly. So you'll get access to video versions of the podcast, or you'll be able to listen to the episodes a couple of days early, even unedited sometimes. So head on over to svelteradio.com/support, and you can read more about it there. Oh, and secondly, if you like the podcast, it would be awesome if you could leave a review on iTunes and subscribe. All right, and that's it for the sponsors.
I always feel I don't know. It's a great way to support independent radio, I guess, and this is kind of what we're doing.
Yeah. It's like it's easier than hunting like real sponsors, I suppose. But yeah,
I guess after a while they'll sort of just appear out of the woodwork, really. So
yeah,
it's
that's true.
But it's nice. I think being able to pay for something that has value, and then having that sort of inside info or the sneak peek is really, really valuable. So I think it's good. I think I like it.
Yep. We'll see how it goes.
Do you run a Patreon as well?
No. So I've actually looked at a couple of different solutions for this, and Patreon was one of them. But there's like a lot of not being in the US and having to handle like VAT is a real hassle. Patreon does it for you, but the fees they take are ginormous. So I found some other ways to solve this. I think I'm currently going to use Paddle. It's like they handle digital products and software pretty much.
I draw the line at OnlyFans. I have a body for radio.
I have a comment to that, but I don't think it's appropriate for this audience, so I'll hold my tongue.
All right, so let's get into it. So you said you were an Angular developer on your day job. So how did you end up doing Angular?
So I'll just give you a super fast short version of my history real quick. I was in the military in the United States from 2002 to 2006 as a Java developer. So I basically sat in front of a computer and coded for the military. It was very boring, but that really got me.
I didn't even know you could do that.
There's a lot of systems that you have to keep track of, like tracking people, personnel, training,
makes sense, yeah.
all the things, but not very exciting. I don't like the corporate structure, but I got out, turned around and became a contractor, worked for them for 3 more years, making 3 times as much money because, when you're in, you don't make any money. But that kind of, as Antony alluded to before, kind of pushed me in that entrepreneurial direction, doing the big corporate type thing. So then I went back to grad school, because I had free money from the military, and did entrepreneurship and computer science. There I met a coworker or a co-founder of my previous company called Uvise. We were a Rails and AngularJS. And at the time, this was a little bit before React, and all the, jQuery is kind of just leaving popularity, even though it's still popular. Backbone was kind of plus or minus. I didn't really care for it at the time. So we chose to start our company with AngularJS. And that's kind of where I got to start in Angular. We never really upgraded in that company to, Angular 2.0 and thus forward what it's now is. And then moving on from there, that company was sold, and spent some other time doing React, and played around with Vue a little bit, played around with Django. And then I joined HobbyDB, and they were already using Angular. So that's how I came to be my current role.
Cool. So what is HobbyDB? Is that it's like an e-commerce?
Yeah,
thing,
it's a e-commerce site where people can buy and sell anything that's collectible. So the little Pop Funko dolls, if you're familiar with those, I don't know how popular they are outside of the United States. They seem to be kind of trendy, and I guess we are a marketplace for those is the main thing. And Hot Wheels, the little cars. Those are our two main.
So this is called HobbyDB. That's an interesting name, because I really thought it was like an alternative database system for development. I thought it was like a, the name did not draw a picture of what the product is. It's interesting.
They were around for about 3 years before I joined the team, and then I took over as CTO there, and the previous VP of engineering and CTO was taking off. So I'm still in a fingers crossed. Will we ever have the time to upgrade off of their stack to Svelte or something different? But it seems like we're always chasing. So
I guess it's often a push, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you think people who work? Sorry, do you think people who work with you've got an appetite for something outside of Angular, or do you think they are kind of pretty happy with Angular and?
The dev team is definitely excited about other things. It's kind of hard not to get them hyped off. They're very into Next.js, which is the React super popular one, which is fair. Mm-hmm. Most of our development team is in South America, and just making sure that their skills are up to date and in the popular realm.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I mean, you can't blame a person for that, really, can you, I suppose?
But I have turned them on to some Svelte things. So we're trying to get little internal tools here and there used too. So
it's funny how all you need is like a little way in, and then suddenly people kind of prefer writing this, and then suddenly everything becomes Svelte and what you thought was right. That's happened in a couple of places I've worked at, and it's quite a nice feeling. It doesn't always work. It doesn't always work at all. I mean, there was a place I worked at which was Redux and Sagas and React, and I started writing login screens and stuff for things in Svelte, but it just didn't really catch on.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes people are stuck in their ways.
I think it's a particular challenge to CTOs, because at some point your stack will be out of date. And then there's always a question of like, when do you rewrite to keep developers happy? Well, at the same time, like rewriting just for the sake of rewriting has zero business value. And like, how do you make that decision? So I haven't come across it yet.
I think one of the roles of CTO is that you don't make the decision, right? You offer up alternatives, you advise, you provide benefits and widen the landscape, but you don't necessarily push your team in a direction, because really, in the end, it's up to the team who are actually doing, especially as a CTO of a larger company, you are not developing yourself. You're kind of more providing a background for people who are developing in your team.
Right. So you've found Svelte, and you've fallen in love with.
I really have. It's kind of funky because when I played with Vue and when I did a lot of React during contract time between Uvise and HobbyDB, I did that whole Redux Saga thing as well. Went down that rabbit hole. And I've played with hooks and newer things too, But Svelte, sometime, I think it was last year, really early on. So pre-COVID days, I was watching Ridge talk about something, and I don't remember what. And I was just like, that looks really cool. And then when COVID started, I was stuck at home a lot more. So I was like, well, I want to make this product. And I really wanted to make it for myself. And you know what? I'm going to try to do, Sapper with it and Svelte. And the nice thing is that I really, really like, probably more than anything almost, is the fact that you can literally go through the entire tutorial and all the documentation for Svelte in 4 hours. You can get through the entire thing and you've done at least a little bit of everything. And no, you don't know it all, but you've tried it all and you can see how it works. That to me was the biggest selling point, because I went through the whole documentation and I was like pre-sold because I didn't have to take a week to try to learn everything.
Yeah, that's the same reason I'm here, right? That's the exact same reason. The tutorial, I'm very impatient. I get distracted easily, whatever you want to call it, ADHD, you name it. But basically, something needs to be quite terse and quick, and learn it, and it's perfect. And Svelte is just like that. And I guess it's a good answer for people who raise bug requests saying, why can't we add this API and this API and this API? It's because that length would grow, that length of time.
So what did you first build in Svelte? So is ListenAddict the first kind of thing that you...
Yes, it is, actually. I kind of just went, all the way down. So quick breakdown of what ListenAddict is, just for the listeners, is it's basically a place where you can go subscribe to a person, kind of like you'd subscribe to a podcast. So if you really liked Kevin specifically, and he was on other podcasts, you'd subscribe to him and you get notified every time he's on any different show. Or Antony or Shawn or whatever. So that's versus just being subscribed to, Svelte Radio by itself. You might subscribe to that too somewhere else, but on my site, you would subscribe to a specific person. And yeah, so I wanted to do Svelte, and I figured might as well, and this is a product for myself. I built it for me. If I really MVP'd it, I would just build the back end and email myself when somebody who knew was on. But I wanted to build something fun in the front end. And it just kind of grew and grew and grew and became a little bit more than my MVP should have been. I had a lot of fun.
Usually how it goes.
I had a lot of fun with Svelte. And I was like getting into animations, and I'm not the best with animations and these kinds of things. And it made it really easy to do really silly things that I kept on pushing my MVP back for.
Yeah. So kind of a double-edged sword there. Kind of want to get it out there, but then you get stuck in all these nice features. Yeah,
exactly.
But it's the best kind of product, right? You built it for yourself. That's just essential. That's absolutely how to do it.
I don't think I could build something that is just strictly market driven. I have to be able to build something for myself. The next product I'm building is also for myself. So
yeah. So is it just Svelte and Sapper all through, or are you using some other service underneath?
The back end, the technical back end is all Rails. It was just really easy for me to build an API for that. I'm a big fan of Flutter. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Flutter.
Yeah, I've heard of it, yeah.
So I've played a lot with that for mobile apps, and it brings a lot of joy, kind of like Svelte does for me for the web. So I wanted to build my back end and what I am super familiar with so that I can build fast. So all the back end is all Rails. I would love to eventually learn Golang or something else and replace it, but it's not that important. And then the front end is just all Svelte and Sapper and Tailwind.
Are there any challenges integrating Svelte with Rails? I think you have to use something like a Webpacker with Rails. I don't know Rails that well.
I decided to make it separate applications entirely. So the Rails backend is purely an API. So you hit a web request and it returns some JSON, and that's it. That way I could keep it completely separate for the Flutter app that I eventually plan on doing. And that's why I wanted them to be completely separate. But yes, you're correct in that if you were to do it from scratch in one application, so it's all Rails with Sapper, with Svelte, or whatever, it would use Webpacker or something like that.
I wonder if there's like a roll-up.
Sounds complicated.
It's way more complicated. I love having it separate. It makes it so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. APIs are like the native, foreign function interface of the web. It's interesting talking about Flutter, right? Like I've messed around a little bit with it. Flutter has a web equivalent. Why not build the whole thing in Flutter, or build the whole thing in Svelte and Svelte native?
So I'll answer that two ways. One, when I was really getting into Flutter, 2 years ago, was when I was really getting into Flutter. Flutter Web was not ready, and from what I've read, it still might be ready? Question mark. In that certain things you couldn't even like copy and paste text and things like that because of the way Flutter works. So Flutter Web was just not ready when I looked at it.
So Flutter Web, does that work the same way that Flutter works on mobile? Like it has its own canvas and renders stuff on it?
At the time it did. I'm not sure now because I haven't looked since, to be honest, a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And then same thing with Svelte Native. I honestly haven't even tried it yet.
Yeah.
So I can't speak to that.
So I've actually, this is some news for an upcoming episode. I've talked to a guy who's made some Svelte Native applications, and he's going to come on in a couple of episodes to talk about it with us. So that's nice.
That'll be nice.
If you're interested in that,
I'll definitely listen to that.
Yeah. So will I.
It is one of those things. I actually spend a lot of time kind of advocating for this sort of separation between front end and back end. So you have the choice of technologies when you're building different clients. So you're kind of living that right now.
I definitely agree with that, and I hate the whole. I have a hammer and everything is a nail, and I feel like I find that so much especially in JavaScript land. People want to apply it to everything, and I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Jeff Atwood, but he has Atwood's law, which anything that's written in code will eventually be written in JavaScript or something along those lines. And he published that like 15 years ago or something like that.
Sounds familiar.
So I always think, why not use the best tool for the job? And that's why I didn't use just Express with Sapper to build my API. It's why I didn't use Rails with Webpacker. I think that Rails as an API, I can get things done incredibly fast. Front end, just sticking it with Sapper and Svelte and Tailwind, I'm doing things way faster than I would trying to implement Rails with it. And when I played with Flutter a couple of years ago, it was fast to implement things. And I can't say that I won't check out Svelte Native because I'm definitely excited about new technologies, but I don't want to do the hammer thing and make everything a nail.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, so you've also got this other thing that you're working on, right? I saw a comment on Hacker News. So this is actually how I found you, I think. You're doing something called Use Producer. Is that correct?
Yeah, so producer.com, of course, is taken because that's probably expensive, owned by somebody. So
high value domain. Right?
High value domain. So I'm calling it producer. This domain is use producer. Like I'm going to use this, and that's going to be a product leaning towards YouTubers, but then also eventually podcasters and other content creators, where it's a project management tool, basically. So, Kevin, I'll probably reach out to you at some point after this, a few months down the line when I have an MVP and I need more beta users. But you're trying to create episodic content where you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. And, you have your job and Antony has his job and everybody has their jobs, right? And so you can have a team incorporated and it's kind of automatic. So you do your thing and then, Shawn gets notified that it's his turn to do his thing and he does it. He clicks complete and then it automatically tweets for you. And so then you don't have to go into Twitter and tweet because that's already finished as well. And then you go back and you check you click whatever on YouTube and then it basically a nice all-encompassing project management tool. I've found there's quite a few different tools based off the interviews I've done with mostly podcasters at this point and a few YouTubers. But on the YouTube side of it, especially, there's less team coordinated things. It seems like a lot more podcasters are using more generic type tools like Notion versus something that's specifically to podcasters. But
yeah, that's what we're using now, Notion. Antony made a template. Was really nice.
My CEO is obsessed with Notion, so he's constantly showing me all this cool, like he's basically using it like Excel. He said everything's linked to everything else, which is kind of like nice. It does have benefits for that.
Sounds scary.
But I just get frustrated with the UI. Yeah, no, it is scary as well. But I get frustrated with the UI, and it's definitely like it's that tool. It's the hammer you talked about before. Parker. It's the hammer. It does everything. Everything looks like a nail. It's good, but it's also not good. And I kind of miss Trello. I yearn for my Trello days.
Yeah, I've used Notion some, and I agree. It's a very, very, very powerful hammer, and it's fun. But then it can get bogged down, and it can get slow, and there's different issues with it too.
Yeah,
but I want to build a tool that's specific to the episodic content creators.
Yeah, that makes sense. Shawn, how do you? Because you have another podcast that you do with Randall Kenner, right?
Yeah,
and you also have a mixtape.
I do 3.
Yes. So how do you organize your podcast?
With Rando, I have a Google Doc where we just put ideas of episodes, and it's important that it's short. So we try to plan the content, but then we don't try to plan it too much because then it becomes very scripted and artificial. So we just try to make sure that we log down our ideas and then organize like the main points we want to hit. I think show notes is a important thing to get right, at least for me when I listen to podcasts. So having them prepped and then just make it like an easy copy paste job at the end is pretty important to me. And that's about it. I do think that supporting creative workflows for episodic content is important. But I think my pain point is actually more around like once I've done something once, I'll like tweet it out once, but then really not that many people will see it the first time. Like I actually need to break it up into chunks and share it again and again and again to really spread it out over time and maximize the value of the time that I put in. So I've been looking at some tools to do that, to do audio and video clips.
Oh, like shorter ones?
Yeah. So I even have
a TikTok
repo.
Snippets.
Yeah, 30 seconds, even like 10-second snippets of like just.
I actually thought about that today.
Yeah,
like doing Instagram short like stories or whatever. I don't know if there are many.
Yeah, I have a little repo of this that helps where I'm keeping notes on tools like Spext, Descript, AudioMass, and then Otter.ai, Headliner.app, Wave.co, TapTapes.com. These are all tools in this space that I'm exploring.
I will definitely check out all this too. Yeah, I want to build things like that where, the episode may be published, but the job isn't done for it yet. You still have to do follow-on work, or, you want to tweet out a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, 3 months later to be like, hey, check out this episode that I wrote. And having that audibly, as much as possible, automated. Obviously sometimes if you want to do snippets that you needed to edit in, that might not be so automated, but having the tweet ready or having the, Reddit post or whatever I can automate in, be as easy as possible.
Would that be a sidekick job for you in Rails?
Yes.
Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It would just be a queued up job that would happen eventually.
I like these things. I like these automation tools as side project ideas because it's kind of like fire and forget, and the value is not tied to your time invested in it. And so I am looking to get better at these things. I'm not using Sidekick, but I'm using some other scheduling stuff. Yeah.
So what is Sidekick?
Sidekick is a Redis-based queue system for Ruby. And since Rails is Ruby, it's just easy to throw Sidekick on there and say, hey, here's a job that's going to happen once a day, or you incorporate into a cron task, and then it'll just run in a background worker somewhere. So I also run a YouTube channel, this is the fulfill my own, problem kind of thing. I've paused on it at about 2.5 years ago, I think now, because I had a daughter who's taken up most of my time, but now she's getting at an age where she is largely self-sufficient for a lot of things anyway. So I'm getting back into...
Yeah, she's 2, she can fend for herself, right?
Yeah, totally. She's fine. So my intent with Use Producer is, I'm revisiting my old workflows for my YouTube channel and trying to figure out what was my personal pain points. But now that the content creator economy is growing and has grown so much, even since I've stepped away for a couple of years, I'm trying to get not just my own feedback, but get feedback from other creators.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty good idea.
There's several that work in different niches that I'm trying to blend. And I think that's the thing. So I've played a lot around with the YouTube APIs, for example, and a lot of the stuff that I've enjoyed doing. This is not episodic content part of my app, but the other part is just, analysis of your content. And I've done a lot of research against, my competitors, so to speak. You're just using the YouTube API, and I love checking out that kind of stuff. So I looked at who does that already in the space. And so there's TubeBuddy and vidIQ are the big two, but they're just Chrome extensions, like super big Chrome extensions that modify the YouTube channel, just the site itself. And so they're not like separate applications for managing, the content itself. They just allow you to automatically fill in, tag list and other things for you.
I think, yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult to build a tool which is generic enough that everyone can use it, but also simple enough. Flexibility is complexity, and before you know where you are, you end up with Notion.
Exactly.
Right? Exactly. It's all very cyclic and goes back to the same thing, that if you make it too good, you're going to end up with something that really doesn't suit anyone. So I don't know. I don't envy your task there in terms of merging all those weird niches.
Yeah, that's why I really want to focus mostly on YouTubers to begin with, and then make it well enough for the episodic portion for podcasters. There's podcasting, I feel like, has a lot more competition in terms of products that already exist.
Yeah. So I assume you're going to build this in Svelte and SvelteKit?
Yeah, I'm going to do SvelteKit. I keep on waiting for it to get published. So the landing page for Producer, yes, is done in just Sapper, because it was just easy for me to export it as it's a single landing page with an email form. Pretty simple. I want to jump back to ListenAddict real quick, because I didn't get to mention this before. So talking about MVP and like exciting different things and waiting, this is really cheesy. I don't know if you guys can have your computers up, but if you check out ListenAddict on the desktop, not on your phone, I have Tailwind. I love Tailwind, and we could talk about that if you want or not. But at the top, I have dark mode and light mode. And then if next to it, I have my little palette builder. So if you click that, it should do a nice little animation, which I just had so much fun with Svelte making amazing. That. And so that was fun. And
it's very satisfying.
It's super satisfying. And it was so easy to do in Svelte. And I showed my wife, and she's like, so when is this MVP launching? And I'm like, well, Svelte made me do this. Sorry.
Yeah, right.
So
wait, so you did theming in Tailwind? That's a little bit hard to do.
No, it's super, super easy, and it's ridiculous. My CSS is ridiculously small. I know some people just hate Tailwind, and we can go into that if you want. But for me, it was easy. I think each of my files for my colors was 1.3 kilobytes, and then my total for the rest of the CSS was like 3 something or 4 something. And that's per color. So 1.3 kilobytes per color. And that gets me light mode and dark mode. So
it's pretty nice.
And then, and the other thing is, of course, because you guys don't see this, I have built myself a moderator dashboard and an admin dashboard for ListenAddict with the intent that eventually I can pay some Mechanical Turk people or something to help moderate new content on ListenAddict. And I have all the keyboard shortcuts and all these other things built in because Svelte just made that so freaking easy. It was ridiculous. So when I go and add new content on there, it takes me minutes because I'm just using keyboard shortcuts and all these other things that I've made that were so fast to do.
So are you adding the content manually then?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Because not every podcast is interview based, and I want it to be hyper focused on interviews. So I want to say that 90% of my content is interview based podcasts. And every given podcast, not generally not 100% of the episodes are interviews. There may be something else here or there. So that's kind of the gist of it. Is I am currently manually curating and trying to find new content.
That's a lot of work.
It was up front, and it is still to find the original source. But once I find, the podcast and its RSS feed, it's fairly simple. I have a very, very simple ng tagging library that I use, plus a little bit of heuristics and algorithms that I've written to extract out people's names automatically. So I don't have to go in and add people. It'll pick up.
All right.
As long as they're in the title of the episode. I am at like a 95% hit rate, and the other 5% is manual intervention. So that's what I would need moderators for.
I think manual curation is a really good way to go. You know, we do a lot of things manually as well. And at some point you figure out what works and what doesn't work because you've done it manually and you've been involved there. And then you can automate those tasks rather than trying to automate it up front and then, you know, do something that doesn't really work and then start tweaking code and wonder if it's bugs and stuff. Doing it manually is a very valid method, in fact, of MVP style stuff. So yeah, definitely. It's a great idea.
Get closer to your customers. And
that's definitely the approach I've taken, because I basically built out a few tools for myself as a moderator, but now it's at a point where a lot of that can be passed on to other people to do it manually for cheap if I can, or taking some of that and automating it slowly. The hard part, of course, as you said before with the entrepreneurship thing and multiple products, is now 80% of my code time is going towards use producer. ListenAddict is more just for fun for me, and it's at a very stable position at this point. I may or may not try to monetize it. I don't think it's anything people will pay for, but I could throw ads on it, I guess. It's not that important to me. It's very cheap to run. So I would much rather spend my time on using it on use producer, so that way I can get that launched and actually try to make money and quit my job.
So I have a suggestion on how to monetize this. And this is something so I used to be an equity analyst in a hedge fund, and my job would be to follow the CEO and CTOs and whatever of the public companies that I'm invested in. But it's hard to keep track of the public interviews that they do, and increasingly more and more of them are doing podcasts. So basically I would want to give you a list of stock tickers to look up like their C-suite essentially. And if any of them do any podcasts, I want to know about it. I want a transcript, and I want it emailed to me. So like, if you want like a B2B version of that where people will pay for it, probably that would be a path.
Oh, interesting. I haven't not even thought of that. Everything I'm thinking is, consumer-based stuff. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, B2B is where the money is. Everyone knows that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, and actually, I have a further hypothesis, which is if you see like a CEO doing like a podcast tour, their company is doing well. So you should just buy the stock. like Cloudflare right now, Michelle Zatlin is doing every podcast. So Cloudflare is just crushing it. Mm-hmm. Like
they're releasing their quarterlies in a couple of days, I think.
It's obvious. Like no one, if like your company's doing poorly, you're not doing podcasts, right? So
is that true like now with so many podcasts though? Or do people
I mean, it's obviously it's a little bit tongue in cheek, and you should not take that as investment advice. But there's a bit of a theory. Like Jeff Lawson,
for the big public companies,
CEO of Twilio. Oh shit, Jeff Lawson, CEO of Twilio, launched the book, and now he's like doing a book tour. Twilio's obviously doing well. There's a slight correlation, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, the point is to make it easier for stock analysts to keep up to date on their companies. So right now you're focused on, you don't have a theme. Like there's like celebrities, there's like some people. I don't know what the theme of the people is, but if you could focus on a monetizable niche of speakers, then that might work.
Okay, cool. Yeah, to let you know, the theme is basically software engineers, business people, entrepreneurs, and a little bit of celebrities, mostly for SEO juice. But those are the people I generally want to know, who entrepreneurs and software people are generally who I personally want to get notified of certain people when they have a new podcast. And like Adam Wathan of Tailwind or Rich, for sell things. It's like, okay, I want to hear. But to get high on Google, I want to bump it up with some celebrities.
Yeah, this
getting high on Google.
This reminds me of like
Sergey Brin's Weekend.
I listened to an episode of what's the podcast called? It's like Tiny Seed Tales or something like that. And there was this guest who'd made like a like happy birthday site for like a birthday site for celebrities where people could look up celebrities, and it was doing like massively well and scoring like top of Google all the time. Just for
That's crazy.
Yeah, it surprised me. It surprised me, but it makes sense though. And if you think about it, like people search for it.
I'm always the tech partner in startups, right? I'm never the business partner because I don't want anything anyone else wants, and I can't think of things that people want.
I was the same way before, and I kind of, that's why I went to school. I ended up getting a double master's because I wanted to learn more on the entrepreneurship side as well as computer science, because I can live in tech all day and never do any marketing, and then no one uses my stuff. But I wanted to try to get on that other side a little bit more.
Yeah,
it's a good. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a valuable skill. Absolutely a valuable skill.
It is a lot of fun as well, I feel.
So with Svelte, I'm going to ask you guys, because you guys are a little bit more, I'm on the Discord channel. It's so hard for me to plug into communities. I think I'm mostly active on Indie Hackers and a little bit on Hacker News. But I'm in 10 different Discord channels. I'm in 10 different Slack channels. How do you guys choose your niche? I'm just curious. This is me interviewing you, but just in terms of getting plugged in, because I would love to eventually contribute to, actually contribute to Svelte itself as a contributor, on the development side, or, same with like Flutter or whatever. Those would probably be the two that I'd prefer to be able to contribute to if I could ever take the time to do that and give back to the community beyond just building products and raising developer awareness about these technologies. How do you guys plug in, or do you you're all in on Svelte and that's easy just to focus there?
I think it's hard. Like the Svelte Discord is probably the only Discord that I am all in on, if that makes sense. I'm in a couple of others as well, like the CSS Discord and like some cryptocurrency ones as well. But I think, it's hard.
I'm not too different. Like the Svelte Discord is where I spend probably 90% of my eyesight. I've got a Discord for my company as well, and that gets 10% of my attention. But obviously, it's a lot less active, right? There's only 7 users in there, and Svelte was 2,000 something. As to how I keep sort of aware of everything, it kind of comes up when a startup gets to a certain size that you have to learn about other things, because you really have to pick the optimal solution. It's gone from building a hobby project in Svelte only and only focusing on Svelte to now I build it in Svelte because it is the best solution for everything I need. But I do need to be aware of how React tackles problems, how Vue tackles problems, how all these different builders like Webpack and Rollback will tackle problems. So it will be mostly Twitter. I would say that, Twitter is in terms of social media, it's purely tech. I don't follow many people that are outside of tech, and I don't really see many tweets outside of tech, which is quite nice. I really value Twitter for that alone. I get all the updates. I get, crazy stuff from people who are so far from what I do every day, but still in the tech space. That's kind of why I like Twitter, I guess. But yeah, it is very difficult to keep up with everything, and you really can't. I think you have to be a generalizing specialist, which kind of applies to many aspects of work and things, but just keep a focus, but always be able to be distracted, have other things in your periphery, I suppose, that you can see. But you have to focus in order to become good at something, I think, and you have to kind of specialize in that thing.
Yeah, it's hard, definitely. Like, I think for me, Twitter is also the way I learn about stuff. And maybe, Hacker News as well. It's a good one.
I don't read that, and I probably should.
Yeah, Hacker News is awesome. I love Hacker News.
It gets about 80% of my attention. Hacker News does.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really nice.
So you either get a balanced opinion there, or you get sort of what people call it really bad names, right? They call it trash and stuff. It's kind of like it's a split mindset on what Hacker News actually is or what it brings.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to be critical, like with everything, right?
Yeah, I suppose you do. What about you, Shawn? Because you're on top of everything.
I dabble probably too much. I run my own Discord for my book. So, I spend a lot of time
I'm in there.
curating. Oh, yeah. I spend a lot of time curating, I guess, information and continuing updates for my community members. I'm a little bit in the Svelte Discord as well. I guess I do a lot of my learning through podcasts, so I listen to a lot of what's going on and try to keep tabs. So I'm an ideal customer for ListenAddict because I am a listening addict. But I'm also trying to, I guess, I think there's no end to how much you can consume, and you need to be more intentional about what you consume, and the best stuff you should try to consume repeatedly instead of always looking for the new thing. And I think, to me, the Lindy effect is something I think a lot about. Like, things that have been around, things that have been relevant for a while will likely continue to be relevant. And the sum total of your knowledge is basically the amount of still relevant things that are in your head. So I've been building this thing I call Lindy Library, where it's basically things that are 3 years or older that are still relevant today, which I think will likely be more relevant tomorrow. And I think I like that versus a lot of the ephemeral content that is being produced today.
I say, can I interject and ask, what is your book about?
Oh, it's about it's career advice for people going from junior developer to senior developer. I think that's a kind of underserved market.
Not anymore.
Yeah, it's just one book, and I don't think I do a very good job of marketing it, to be honest. But it's doing fine. It was like basically my most popular essay is about this idea of learning in public, and so people really want more help on how to do that. So I have like writing advice, like applying to CFPs. I also have like tech strategy advice. So like I think developers don't think enough about betting on technologies and the business models of the companies that they work with. So I just give some basic intuition about that in the book. We also study like career ladders. Sorry, I don't mean to turn this into an ad, but like it's a big book.
That's very cool. I definitely had a very difficult time in that transition when I was going from junior to more intermediate and senior. So that's
no one tells you this when you join the industry. It's weird. So.
You're just supposed to know.
You pick it up. Like, hopefully you land in a good company with good mentors, but a lot of people don't. So, yeah.
Right.
They reach out. They're so, I feel sorry for them. They're like, yeah, I don't have anyone else to talk about this with. So I'm like, all right, I'll be your friend.
That sucks. Cool. All right. So let's, do you guys have any other questions for Parker before we go to unpopular opinions?
I'm good. I'm gonna ask him some more outside of the podcast actually when I think of them, because it's interesting to me. Like, I used to do a lot of this releasing small kind of projects that I built myself, I guess. But yeah, the whole lack of marketing meant that they were just literally for me and no one else. And I think that I really like how ListenAddict's looking. I signed up earlier actually. I meant to mention, and I'm really happy with it because I've got my own name, which is something I didn't get on Clubhouse, and I'm gutted about. Absolutely gutted about. I like to have my name on everything, and so ListenAddict, I'm there. Antony, you can follow me. You can.
Well, you can't follow other people
all
yet.
The stuff I listen to, which
soon.
You add it. I need it. I need followers.
The nice thing is, because I don't do a ton of marketing, it should be easy for everyone to get their own names right now.
Well, I mean, that's how I got on Twitter, right? So it can work. But you could be the next Twitter. Who knows?
All right.
But yeah, so I just that's it. I'm done. I think happy. Let's go to unpopular opinions.
Yeah, and you're the only one who has one this week, I think.
I know. Shocking. Come on, people. We can do better. We can try harder.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So my unpopular opinion is that I don't like the await. What is it? An await thing in Svelte. The
like the template tag.
Oh, the template text for await
tag. Yeah. I don't like it. It should be removed. It should be deleted from the code base.
Like comments.
And then a major version.
I only use it once in all of my
like
ListenAddict code, to be honest. I end up just doing it most things in the script section.
I think I think you're doing the right thing. You're on the right path. The thing is, right, so the reason I dislike it so much is because, I've always believed that we follow this pattern where we try to separate view logic from logic, right? View logic should just be rendering something, and logic. They can sit within the view layer traditionally, right? Svelte is three things in one: styling and HTML and code. But you should prepare the data and then iterate over it at max, because I can't see a way you can really avoid iterating over it. But the await tag is different. Like, it really bucks that trend. Svelte is a very simplistic language. It has very simplistic view directives like this. It has very simplistic view things. And the await tag is like an outlier for me. It's doing too much. It's doing it in the wrong place. And you can await things happily in your code and then get the code ready or get a message ready or whatever. Putting it in a template just feels wrong. Just really feels wrong. So yeah, I don't want it there.
Yeah. It's you prefer to handle like your data fetching outside of the template tag, I suppose. I'm actually gonna,
in the ideal world, I'd build something and show it, right? And the closer I can get to that, the better.
Right. Yeah, I'm actually, like, speaking of like separating data handling stuff. I'm gonna record like a learn with JSON type thing, but learn with Kevin next week with Luke about like using custom stores, or rather just derived stores to do data handling. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess that's one way to solve that.
So when Antony told me about this await thing, I was actually very surprised. I was like, wait, what? This is in Svelte. That must mean that it's blessed. And then I realized he was right. So actually, the whole impetus of the data fetching talk that I did on the Svelte Society day, the first conference that we ever did for Svelte Society, was explaining why and why not to use await, or like, the alternatives to await, including building a custom store. So I can refer people to that video. It's on the Svelte Society YouTube for that.
I'd completely forgotten about that, but now that you mention it, that was really nice.
That one comment from Antony actually motivated the whole talk. And then I was just like, okay, let's just see where this goes. And it turns out there's a lot of different ways to do data fetching, depending on what you want to do. It's a fascinating topic, and maybe we should take out await. I don't know, or put a caveat in the docs.
Yeah.
I look forward to your talk on removing comments from your code base.
No, that's just wrong. That's just mistaken.
I'm ready for it.
I have an unpopular opinion to share that's not mine. If you all want to
go for it,
do a comment on it. So Devin Govett, I thought this was fire, because he says, unpopular opinion: ES modules was a bad idea. It has caused half a decade of churn in the JS ecosystem, broken almost every tool, caused maintenance nightmares for library authors, and for what? A different syntax? CommonJS was fine. That was his unpopular opinion. And keep in mind, he's the author of Parcel, so he writes a bundler, he knows about static analysis, and so he's arguing that the typical response. So okay, me as someone relatively new to JavaScript, I was just told that ES modules were better, and I just take it on faith. Like, this is a big thing that has been in the works, and like once everything will be better once we migrate to ES modules. And then here's this guy that there's like, we could do a lot of the exact same things that we want to do with ES modules with CommonJS. And now we have just like years of just like, oh, you have to do like double transpiling, or like, and then your import systems are broken. Like everything's just kind of like in a weird flux state that we maybe didn't need. So I thought it was a very interesting unpopular opinion, and I'll just send people there, because there's a lot of discussion about this.
Yeah. I don't know enough about these subjects to really have an opinion. It just feels right to do the import syntax.
Yeah, I have to agree. I don't know enough about ESM or anything else, or CommonJS really, but I understand that EJS is better for tree shaking, which is definitely a benefit. I just don't know whether that's because somebody made EJS and then made it tree shakeable, or whether there's a fundamental problem with CommonJS that you can't tree shake it. I just don't know which it is.
I mean, so that's why it's relevant to me that it comes from someone who makes a bundler, because he's like, he's basically saying he can do the exact same tree shaking with CommonJS, so we didn't need it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I don't think Parcel prides itself on tree shaking specifically, though, right? Parcel prides itself on ease of use, no setup, just run it and you bundled kind of thing. And so I think that I would probably, and I obviously massive bias, but I would go with the kind of Rich Harris opinion of ESM everywhere and nothing else. And again, I don't know if that's a fundamental thing in terms of how the two things work, or whether it's just I don't know. But I would say that probably I'm on the Rich Harris side of the argument for now, just because I think that the roll-up is focused on the smallest possible bundle size, and that's very much more appealing to me.
So
Parker, what do you think?
I can't speak to it. Sorry, I'll listen to the talk or read anything about this though, because it sounds interesting. But to be honest, I'm used to in Ruby land you have Ruby gems. You have one way. Python you use everybody has their one way, so it's interesting. JavaScript is like so many ways. So I can't speak to it.
This is the Python 2 to 3 conversion of JavaScript. It's just taken way too long. And it's
so 10 years later, 15 years later, we'll be there. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, it probably is.
Yeah,
Great.
I mean, pretty much.
Approaching that, to be honest.
I mean, I remember when NPM came out. What was that? 2009? 9?
2009.
Gosh.
Yep. I have the original email. I found the original email in the Google group.
2009. So that's only 12 years ago. So great. Now we have 15 more years of catch up. I have a separate unpopular opinion I'll throw out. It's that generally speaking, you don't need the style tag within your Svelte files. 99% of my components do not, and that's specifically because I am using Tailwind. I will throw this out there for people who are Tailwind haters real quick. I know CSS better now than I've ever known it. Everyone seems to say it's the thing for people who don't know CSS. It's actually the exact opposite. Every single class corresponds to one CSS thing. Whereas, when I was using Bootstrap, I'd write an button, but I never had to inspect to see why it looked nice. Now I know everything looks nice because I took the time to add that class. And so basically none of my components have a style tag. The only one that really does is the audio player that I have, because it's a custom audio player. Interesting. Yeah, I think actually the Tailwind thing, somebody else who I have a lot of respect for, actually, very, very good coder, who I thought would be totally against me at Tailwind, really speaks highly of it. So what can I say? I don't think it's for everything. It's not for every project. It'll be very hard pressed to pull me away from it.
I mean, I'm using it for the new Svelte Radio website that I'm currently having issues with because I can't figure out SvelteKit because it's not really released yet. My fault, I know.
We make it intentionally difficult so that people don't use it.
That's why each producer is Sapper still.
Yeah. I should probably.
I mean, all my stuff's Sapper still.
I should probably convert it to Sapper for now.
Yeah. Just hold off for a bit.
Yeah. And Sapper isn't dead, by the way. Whoever thinks Sapper is dead, they're still making, pushing things to GitHub. You can see it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, we had
last night, in fact.
We had Ben on last episode, right? Where we talked about Sapper and how it's specifically not dead. So yeah.
Like we only really wrote off Svelte 2 about, a couple of weeks ago, to be honest. We're at the point now, just people need to upgrade, and we've been supporting it long enough. But there's got some good longevity in Svelte stuff, in Svelte land. So we got time for our picks.
Yes, we do. All right. So what's this random pick you have for us this week, Antony?
Is it ever not a random pick? So my random pick is a can opener. Now, for those who can see the podcast, which is not the audience, sadly, it's a tiny little can opener. It's called a Nogent Super Kim. It's actually from France. And, can openers, there's all sorts of levels of crap for can openers. They're all rubbish. You occasionally find a good one. And my favorite one to this point was a basic, cheapy supermarket, basic can opener. I found this on Amazon, this Nogent Super Kim. It's expensive for a can opener, but this thing opens a can perfectly. So you stick it on the side, you start to turn, and it pulls itself into the rim. It then cuts the rim, but as it does, it sort of, what I can't remember the word is, but it makes little dents in it so it's not sharp. So when you pull that can lid out, it's not sharp, it's not going to cut you. You go around the can, it doesn't slip, it doesn't ever get hard to cut, it's very smooth action. When you finish, you just turn it the other way, just half a turn, and it will remove itself from the can and become, in your hand. It's like magic.
Sounds like magic,
because this thing is tiny. It is like magic. This thing is tiny. This thing is probably like, I don't know, 3 centimeters, like an inch and a bit square. Even cubed because of the handle and stuff. It's just great. So
you're opening a lot of cans
as can
because
openers
you have
go.
cats.
I know.
You said you have cats. That's why you have a cat.
Well, it's because no, we don't feed them. We feed them pouch food actually, but no, we really like tuna, so we have a lot of tinned tuna, and it's just every time it pains me opening cans. Just we had this very pretty, very posh can opener, and it was just rubbish, and it got blunter and blunter. And it would lose the grip, and then it would have to put it back on. And once you've lost the grip in a can opener and you try and go with the same bit, it won't grip and it won't cut the notch. And then you've got a knife you're trying to stab the top off. So yeah, can opener is way more important than I thought it would be. But I love this one. This is brilliant. So yeah, I'm happy with this.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes.
Stick it in the show notes.
Shawn, do you have a pick today?
There's I haven't. Can you come back to me? I need to think of one.
yeah, sure. So my pick this week is the Bitcoin Lightning Network. So I've been super interested in playing around with Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin Lightning Network makes all these like problems with the amount of transactions per second go away. So it's not really an issue anymore, which is cool. And it just feels awesome to like send money across the world in like seconds without anyone like telling you can or can't do it. It's a cool feeling.
This is the only way that Bitcoin becomes a reasonable currency is the Lightning Network.
Oh, definitely.
Kevin, I don't want to change the subject completely, but and I'm not a shill, but are you familiar with Nano?
I've heard about it.
Okay. It to me seems infinitely better than anything Bitcoin can or will put out, just because of no tech debt, basically, and how it was created to begin with. In terms of being a currency versus a store of value, which I feel like Bitcoin is.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but I think it's just like the network effect of Bitcoin that makes it the thing that's going to win, if that makes sense. I don't know.
I don't think it's going to win.
I don't think anything's going to win.
I think Bitcoin is the React of cryptocurrency, right? There's an opinion for you.
All right. Let's have this cryptocurrency discussion another time.
No, but I'm actually pretty proud that like we actually talk about it instead of like completely ignoring that it's a thing. We talked about Bitcoin like in May of last year, and it clearly became a big topic. Okay. So my pick is 3jsjourney.xyz. So it's by Bruno Simon, who has his personal site went pretty viral last year because it basically shows you the amazing things that you can do with 3JS. And now he's released a course that's only like, I think it's like $79. And he's just teaching you everything he knows, and it's really well designed. If you ever wanted to learn, like, if you ever get tired of rendering boxes on the screen, this is, and you want to go 3D, I think this is a great way to do it.
All right.
I have a pick.
Parker, do you have a
I have a pick, but yeah. I have one quick comment to that. I haven't seen that 3JS thing. I will check that out. I'm going to do a plug before I do pick. On my YouTube channel, I have, I think, over 100 WebGL videos, tutorials. So if you want to learn what 3JS is doing underneath, well, I don't actually rip apart 3JS, but in general, how does WebGL work? I have a lot of tutorials on how to do interesting 3D things. If you are going to build something for real, I highly recommend 3JS rather than going full metal, because it is a lot of work and overhead otherwise. There's a reason 3JS exists. Anyway, my pick, somewhat thematically with Antony's, was actually in the kitchen as well. I'm not going to go grab it. It's just, we have an espresso machine, and since COVID has started, it is a saving grace. So just a few $100. It's not a $2,000 or $3,000 crazy Italian one or something, but just having a nice espresso machine at home makes life so much better.
Yeah, fair enough. Espresso is nice. All right. And I think that's it. Thank you for joining us today and talking about ListenAddict and all the other stuff we talked about.
He's producer.
And
thanks for joining.
Thanks.
To
really
all the listeners, we'll talk to you guys in a couple of weeks again. Yeah.
Thank you for having me. This is great. You guys are fun.
See you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.